why do white people claim that South Africa is their land? And that's when I started doing my own research. And I actually went into ChatGPT, I went into all these different AI platforms, went into Google, doing my own research. And I found out that the first people in South Africa, or Africa as a whole, were black people, were black Khoisan people. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Um, Up until the year, I think it was 1652, I'm not sure, where the Europeans, the Dutch came and colonized us, right? Um, so then the question came into my head, why do white Afrikaners that are racist, and they understand this logic, this truth that they did indeed come into South Africa and colonize us, but why do they still have that statement to say this is our land and this is Afrikaners' land and this is not your land?
Because let me say it like this: as an Afrikaner, right, a European descendant of Dutch and German and French settlers, at the end of colonialization in Ghana, the French colonizers could go back to France. The Germans in Namibia could go back to Namibia. The English that were here in South Africa could go back to England. After the Groot Trek, when the Afrikaner people were formed, they were no longer Germans and Dutch and French. They created their own people here, intermixing with local groups, other Europeans, even Malayan people. And they became the Afrikaners. So at the end of colonialization in the 1950s, 1940s, or whenever, when all of these Europeans could say, let's go back, it's the end of the gold rush now. What did Afrikaners say? They couldn't say, let's go back home, because they no longer had a home. They are no longer French and German and Dutch. They became Afrikaners. So the French didn't want them. The Dutch didn't want them. And we created a cultural lineage to Africa, right? Because we've been in Africa 400 years. To us, it feels, at what point do we start feeling more African and less European? And that is what I've been advocating for. I've been advocating stop as white Afrikaners and even whites as a whole. Stop advocating for the West. Stop tying yourself to Amsterdam and Berlin and all of that. You no longer belong there. You belong in Africa. And your future, whether prosperous or bad, depends on you and what you make of it. So if you make Africa prosperous, Africa is going to thrive. But if you want to make Europe prosperous whilst in Africa, Europe is going to thrive, and you are not going to thrive.
Yeah. You also made in an interview that you did, you mentioned that Afrikaners won't solve their issues in the United States if they truly want to carry out their Afrikaner culture, and they have to come back home and solve it here. What do you think about this whole situation of white people calling themselves refugees and going to the United States for help?
Yes. So let's make a distinction, right? When I say refugees, I usually put it in quotation marks because refugees jump borders, they swim through rivers, they don't line up at the airport with tons of baggage. Right? That's not what a refugee does. They're not accepted into government subsidized homes that have been pre-packed with food and the right facilities. Because let's be honest, the white Afrikaans refugees are being treated as gold class people of interest, refugees.
True.
You don't see that treatment happening in the Trump administration with people from Congo, where there's an actual genocide in Sudan and other parts of Africa and the Middle East, Palestine. So what I say to the Afrikaans community, if you want to believe in a genocide, if you believe that you're persecuted, so be it. But if you deny an actual genocide happening in Palestine or Congo and believe that your genocide is illegitimate, you have serious work cut out for you. Because how can you be persecuted, right, when you actually have a voice to talk for yourself? People that are being persecuted, people in Palestine, you don't see them across mainstream media on their TikToks and stuff. There are people in war-torn countries dying, right? And crime is a statistic that affects all South Africans, not just white farmers.
Yeah. Given the ongoing racial tensions in South Africa, what steps do you think are crucial for fostering a genuine reconciliation and understanding between the two different communities?
I think education,
Okay.
debate, like we've done. We've talked about it. We've had conversation. The next stage is debating about it, and it's educating both sides of the communities, figuring out where we lie, where we'd like to be, empathizing, especially as white people, deconstructing, empathizing with black people, because this is Africa. And if white people and Afrikaans people don't envision their future in line with Africans, we risk facing irrelevance, because this is Africa and this is where the future is. And let me tell you this, the future is not in Europe, not for Afrikaners and not even for Europeans, because all of the wealth is in Africa. The most developing continent is Africa and Asia and South America. Europe and America is relics of a soon-to-be past. And if Africans accept that now, and they wake up and they act now, they can be in a very powerful position in the near future.